seconds, 50 seconds. So as we're talking about before, the weather in Manchester is very nice today, you said?
Yes, it's been nice for about a week and a half now. It's very clear, which means at this time of year it gets warm and cold rapidly, one or the other. So we have snow, and then you can go and have a
all right. So
picnic
you're
outdoors.
in spring now, isn't it?
Spring. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we're in autumn. So we're in opposite end. So we're sort of we're going to winter, and you're going into summer. So
I can't imagine having July meaning winter. It's just so strange.
But you sort of get used to it, even though actually in summertime, we're all ready to go ahead. So Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamualaikum everyone. Welcome again to another Voice of Islam program. Tonight, this morning, wherever you are in the world, in New Zealand, where it's about 9:30 in the evening. I'm not sure in the UK, it's probably about, 10:30 in the morning. So welcome everyone. Today we have Brother Lamaan and Sister Safiya from publicquran.org. They're going to tell us about the great things they're doing in various, I think in UK and maybe France as well, and maybe other areas. And I'd like to just welcome them and let them introduce themselves and let us know the great work they're doing in their part of the world. Jazakallah, Assalamualaikum. Welcome, brother and sister.
Walaikum salam. Just a quick correction, it's publicqurancampaign.org. Yes, so we're talking about this public Quran campaign. The idea, I suppose, goes back quite a way, but it's the idea basically of getting the Quran into the media, into conversation. We did a number of things, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit more detail as we go through the interview, but that's just, yes, nice to be with you.
Inshallah. So would you like to introduce your organization, publicqurancampaign.org, how it sort of started, what prompted you to do the work, to start doing this sort of thing, and then just how it progressed and where you are at the moment and what sort of time frame?
Well, it goes back quite a long time, this sort of inspiration. I had an idea to do things, I mean, years and years ago. I remember being invited to go onto a television program when the UK lottery had just started, and the first winner of the UK lottery was a Muslim. Wouldn't you love it? And he won the largest ever winning, which is 17 million pounds or something like that. And so there was a lot of media hubbub about this. But I went along and I thought, I'm going to take the Quran, and there's a verse in the Quran. It's very clear. It says, gambling is prohibited effectively. So I was like, I brought along my Quran with a bookmark in it, and as soon as I entered the studio, they said, "You're not allowed. You're not reading from that." And I got a very clear instruction that reading from the Quran or talking about the Quran is something that people don't do that much in the media. So when I looked over the years, and I saw that people would talk about Islam, Muslims, talk about traditions, talk about cultures of Muslim this, but they will never actually go, or almost never go into the Quran and say, well, what does the Quran actually say about this? Which I think is the authoritative definition of what Islam does, rather than what this Muslim over here does and that Muslim over there does. So much later on, I thought this is the way to we need to focus on getting the Quran into public as that should be driving our discussions, our dialogues. So we started some years ago. We did. I thought we'll do some bus campaign up. So I mostly put my money into this, and we've raised a bit of money from other people, but it's mostly my money gone into it so far. So we did a bus advert campaign around Manchester, which I think we have a picture on the website, the publicqurancampaign.org, and this ran for about 6 months, and it's hard to know with these things how much you get from the public reaction. But I work quite closely in that with my stepfather, who is Professor Abdul Halim, who did the translation for Oxford University Press, which has a picture from there. But there's the advert, which we could say, God is one, God needs no one, never a father and never a son, is beyond compare with anyone. So we tried to get a nice translation, working with him, confirming the wording, and also making it kind of poetic and effective in ways that, you know, if you're doing a whole translation for the entire Quran, you don't focus so much on each individual verse quite so much. So we worked quite closely with Professor Halim to get those translations good. And then we started thinking, how else can we get this out? And we found out that we can put signs on religious buildings without any kind of planning permission in the UK, at least, as long as they're not too big. I think it's like a bit over a square meter you can put on any building. And so we thought we'd try and get them on mosques. So we've basically made it an open invitation for mosques to say, you know, tell us what verse you'd like. We'll work on getting the translation just nice for you know, for the public to see it with, you know, when it's kind of, we'll make sure. Sorry?
Easy to understand, easy to relate to, and
easy to understand, easy to read, quick to read. You don't want long words with like 4 syllables in it and things like that. And you want it, you know, to have a good impact. So we've put signs. My local mosque in Eccles, we had a sign up quite a few years ago now, and we started putting other signs. We did the main mosque in Manchester, Didsbury Mosque, a main mosque. There are several mosques which might claim to be the main mosque in Manchester. And we've done one in London, and we've had we need to get more done. We need to get people to kind of accept our invitation, because we pay for everything. We help design the sign, we manufacture it, we install it, and we pay for it all. So we're sort of inviting people to do that for their mosque, rather than it being like a silent building which people can be suspicious about. It actually speaks to the public, which I think is a very good thing to do. Some have Arabic calligraphy or something that's decoration, but you really need something sort of meaningful.
Just on that, with the mosque, can I just interrupt? Have you also considered, I know you'd have to ask the people running the mosque to invite the people in as well and say, look, welcome, come in, because this is the biggest thing that, you know, we've sort of found here, that once people start seeing the mosque inside and seeing, oh, there's no bomb making in the corner, there's no stash of this, stash of that, it's a normal place, you know, a place of, you know, and things like that. And it's just, most of the people come in, they sort of shocked and think, oh, it's so simple, it's so easy, you know. So that's my, you know, sort of question. Would, you know, if you ever thought of, you know, underneath that would say, you know, please welcome to come and visit.
This is something that, you know, can potentially be added, but there have been many different initiatives already, particularly in the UK. That's what we're more familiar with, but I'm sure it's happening in other parts of the world where you have open my mosque, yes, visit my mosque, and iftar evenings where the doors are completely open. Obviously, yes, that's pre-COVID situation. Things have changed a lot since COVID has appeared. But in the past, yes, there were a lot of already opportunities that would allow people to come and visit mosques, take part in iftar, in other different activities of that nature.
Yeah, it could be done on a sign as well, potentially. The mosques do already have different signs up, but this one we're trying to do nice or permanent signs. They have a number of different things, like they'll do special open days and things. Yes. But yeah, we did that, and I suppose the thing we're doing now, this is the next kind of phase, is we're looking at during Ramadan, this Ramadan in particular, we're trying to do a number of interviews with people. We've got a few in the can, so to speak. Just asking people about what their verses, their chosen verses of the Quran are, verses that had a particular significance to their lives. And we've got a number of videos which are scheduled to be released over Ramadan, with people interviewing them. Fairly brief interviews, you know, sometimes up to half an hour, but sometimes just 10 minutes, about what verses of the Quran have a particular importance for them. And I think that's quite nice as well, bringing it into the discussion. And in the future, you know, there's all sorts of possibilities about how we might make it part of the discussion of how bring it into the media more fully.
So going back to when you talked about the buses, that was one of your first projects? doing the buses on
Yes, we did that. Yes, it's quite a while ago now.
So was it just one bus, or was it the whole fleet? Or
it was what you do is you kind of book a line, like a particular line from one part of the city to the other, and the buses that go back and forth on that line have the adverts all over them. And so we had a couple of lines that went kind of quite a long route through from one end of Manchester to the other, and so yeah.
So did you? You're saying you weren't sure how effective it was. You didn't.
Yeah.
Have, to sort of see how.
With advertising, it's hard to know the effect of it, especially with things like billboards or bus adverts or things like that. And I think one of the things about most advertising is moved online, and Google is taking the lion's share of advertising online and things like that, Facebook, because there's actually feedback. You can see how many people clicked, how many people interacted. And I think it's quite hard for advertisers to know how big or small an impact a particular advert has. So you get more feedback with the sort of electronic media. So I think that's probably where we will try and focus and see if we can get sort of real engagement.
Yeah. It's just we did our first billboard campaign just recently, like last month. It only finished just a few days ago, and again, it's you don't really know how effective it is, but the feedback was good. It's the first time it was done in New Zealand by Muslims. We did in 3 main cities, and it was sort of like going up to the 2nd anniversary of the mosque shootings and things like that. So we just, like you said, you had just basic translation of the Quran of just a few verses, and talking about just simple things where people can read. We didn't even put the reference to where it was in the Quran or things like that. We just wanted to make it simple and easy so people can see it. So what you've been doing all these years, we've only just woken up to do something just recently in that area. So apart from the billboards and the mosque signs, is there other sort of dawah activities you guys are doing, or is this your main area to push?
Well, in terms of sort of dawah type activities, I mean, this is I kind of dipped in and out. So I have my professional careers and sort of various projects I've kind of worked on that you might classify as dawah. So I started way back in '96 with a website called Investigating Islam, which is very much focused on dawah, sort of answering the tricky questions. So that's a website which is Islamic.org.uk. It looks very old because I haven't touched it for about 20 years. But it does have it goes through all the main questions and sort of the atheist manifesto refutation and things like that. There's quite a few bits and pieces in there, including a whole book I wrote, sort of a 150-odd page book on a 150-odd page book called Islam for the Western Mind, very brash, boldly, and so I did that, and then I got it translated. Also, I've worked. There's a site which people probably heard about called Ask About Islam, or I think that's what it's called, which I was kind of one of the early editors for, working on that for Islam Online, and it's now its own kind of organization. And other bits and pieces, I also worked as a publisher, effectively, as a colleague of mine had a number of books he wanted publishing, and he thought that I need someone to fund the publishing and the printing and then get it working. And he's a historian called, and his pen name, I should say, is Salahuddin Al-Jazairi, and you can look him up on Amazon. He has a lot of books now he does as ebooks, so he doesn't need me anymore. He doesn't need my money, because all just he can print his books and he gets them out there for himself, which is good. Which I kind of launched his kind of publishing activities, and he has, I think, like 20-odd books. And we did the books called The Hidden Debt to Islamic Civilization, which is a book all about sort of science and other aspects of how Western civilization has got sort of inherited all these sort of sciences and so on from the Islamic civilization, and there are others as well. The rise and decline of Islamic, so the golden age of Islamic civilization, and the myth of Muslim barbarism and its aims, which is another. So a few books we produced, but he's now got lots more.
Yeah.
So that's some of the things we've been doing, but they all kind of separate little projects. But at the moment we're focusing on making the Quran the center of the debate. And as part of this, I hope maybe in the future we will look at is how to have good conversation. I mean, we have now a big problem with social media where you've got like either you have lots of trolls and a very messy, very kind of hectic conversation of people insulting each other or not anonymously, or you have no conversation at all, and people don't talk to each other. We need to find a way in which people can have conversations, but manage them and manage their own rules about how they talk to one another online. So that's a big kind of question that's in the world at the moment, and we might look at how we can sort of get into that space a bit in terms of getting the Quran into the conversation and to have people discuss it in a polite way.
So with part of the work you're doing, then you're doing promoting the Quran and things like that. Do you actually ask people to, or suggest people can write to you for a copy of Quran to send out, or do you do that sort of thing, or you're just trying to engage and let people know what the Quran is?
There is another charity here in the UK called the Quran Project, which I'm not involved with, but they do send out lots of free copies of Quran to people throughout the country, and so they're already doing that. So I wanted to draw the sort of terms of the objects of this kind of non-profit organization to be about, you know, getting that message out into the public rather than a lot of private spheres. I mean, the Quran is available, and it's a question of just trying not to overlap too much with other people's work in that area.
Yeah, for sure. Because there's plenty of organisations throughout the UK and other places doing their distribution and things like that. Because I thought with I think it's your father-in-law who's translation.
My stepfather.
Yeah, stepfather. So yeah. So do you suggest to, if people want a copy, they contact him or his organisation he might have, or publishers?
There's been some discussions I've had, and I remember there's some people who, I think it was in Kuwait, that want to buy like 1 million copies or something, and there's some sort of discussion about that. And also the thing about that is it depends on the publishers, and the publishers have to agree to it, and people want to do their own print runs, which are a bit different, and all sorts of things. I've kind of been involved a little bit in those discussions, but not much.
Yeah, kept away from it.
The translation that Professor Abdel Halim has published was the first one that was published by a Western mainstream publisher, which is Oxford University Press, as the first translation by an Arab published by one of those mainstream publishers. So it's quite a groundbreaking project, obviously, but they own all the rights, and they obviously are the publisher and selling it. You can find it on Amazon for quite a reasonable price anyway. But I believe some people do buy a bit more in bulk and distribute them themselves. And that's what we have been doing, but we don't really have ourselves a project within Public Quran Campaign yet to do that. We focus on sort of trying to bring out salient points in the Quran that will help people to understand it better and to go beyond the stereotypes of the misunderstandings, misinterpretations that we hear a lot in the media. So that's what we focus on, just the actual message rather than the physical book.
Yeah. No, that's good. It's because, like you said, other people are doing all that type of project. So I'm sure if you get requests, you can just forward it on to those other organisations. So it then is part of what you're doing. Do you get requests to go and talk about the Quran in schools or places like this, or anything like those sort of places, or you just you're just out there promoting from one side, and you don't get much feedback or requests for those sort of things?
Well, I haven't had a lot of that. I think I've done various things with schools around Manchester. I worked for a while in the Muslim Youth Foundation in the centre of Manchester, and they used to have a schools project, and we would go around to the schools. It was not related to the public Quran campaign; it didn't exist really at that time. But they still, even since then, and in fact, it's quite an interesting connection. When they had the New Zealand incident, there was a local school here that they wanted some Muslims to come around and sort of they do something, and they had a special assembly, and they kind of invited myself and another colleague from the local mosque. We went along, and they presented us with they did a little assembly. They had some songs, and they all the children had like written some little posters and things, and it was really quite touching, very nice. And so I did a little talk there for a few minutes, and sort of I actually read a translation of Surah Al-Fatiha, and so that as a kind of part of just showing them a bit about
from the Quran,
from the Quran. So I try and inject it in all over the place. Like, you know, whenever I'm posting on Facebook about some issue, I will try and refer to a verse of Quran as a reference, and make it kind of become more into our discussions. I also I have a personal blog. There's a bit more kind of sort of political and dealing with topical affairs, which is a different website which I can mention, I guess. Is investigatingislam.org. It's kind of like the child of the first one, but this is something that's more up to date. So I have various references to that, and I do work in various other ways with this. But in terms of this campaign, we haven't really been been invited to that many events, especially in the last couple of years. It's
with COVID and everything, it's nothing.
COVID is kind of killed that off.
Yeah.
But it opens up the possibility for people are much more open to do these sort of Zoom interviews, which is what we're doing now.
Exactly. Yeah. That's well, that's what happened last Ramadan for us. We're all locked down, and we did a Zoom type program, or could have been Restream. I can't remember back then, but it was, we did every day. We had a program with you probably heard of Yusuf Chambers. We had him on, and I saw on your you have Sister Lauren Booth. She came on a couple of times and things like that, and some others from all over, all over the world. So we had one program every day. But this year it's going to be difficult because we're out of lockdown. We can go back to mosque and Tarawih and a lot of other places the same. So we're going to do something, but not as much as what we did then. But everyone's come used to doing Zoom meetings or this type of online, and we've continued that as well. That's basically our platform going forward. We used to do TV programs on local TV channels here, like community TV channels, and we've only just stopped that and moving more to the online. It's where everything is these days.
This is interesting that you mentioned this, because this is a great transition to mention our new project, the one that we're actually launching today, and which will start properly on Wednesday. We'll release our first interview. And because of COVID, because of the Zoom familiarity, we are now officially with you. We're not the first one to actually mention it properly, but we're launching this series, which will start up on our YouTube channel, which is called My Chosen Verse, and we'll have a series of personalities from all over the world, which will discuss basically the verse that touched them the most, that inspired them maybe, or helped them at a particular time, or they found particularly impactful. And we are starting, you mentioned Lauren Booth, we are starting with Lauren Booth on Wednesday.
Yes.
She was very kind and very graciously accepted to take part in this project. She's the first one of many, who will, for about 10-15 minutes, explain why and how a particular verse or verses touch them at a certain point in their lives. So this is it. We are very, very excited. We have a series of people from various backgrounds. There might be like Lauren, a big pastor, and a media person, could also be just a community worker, politicians, just professionals, but people who are particularly involved in one way or another with either da'wah or community work or just different. Lamaan might want to say that more.
Okay. Yes. So yes, we've got a number of people lined up, and we're still looking for more people who would be good to interview. So we're not telling them what verses. We're not vetting that, and it's just done off the cuff. So we're fortunate, at least, in that people haven't chosen the same verse.
No, that's good.
So we've had quite a selection of verses, which are different, and it kind of gets into an interesting discussions occasionally about, you know, how these verses, you know, what people take different things from them, but they're always taking good things from them in different ways.
Yeah, and I'm sure even if you did have one or two with the same verse, they would come from a different perspective. You know, because I'm sure it's not going to be, it affects them in the same way, because the Quran affects everyone differently, and you know that just and that's the I wouldn't say the magic, but you know, it's the beauty of the Quran, where everyone is affected so differently from even the same words, and even for me, and I'm sure it happens to a lot of other people, when you read it one time, it has an effect on a certain way, and then you read another time, maybe a month later, 2 months later, 6 months, years later, it's something totally different, because something is different in your life at that time, and it just happens to be that verse or whatever it is can have an impact and make you think even more and contemplate and reflect even more than what you may have done before. So yeah, that's alhamdulillah, the miracle and the beauty of the Quran.
Yeah, it's got layers. It's like any good work of art has to communicate on many layers. So people who see it for a second see certain things. People who look at it for a minute see certain things. People who study it for an hour will see even more. And it's as much the observer, what the observer brings to it, and where they're at. And it is the Quran is very much a text that talks directly to people, and it's engages them very directly. You know, it's not a dry textbook. It is very interactive in the way it reaches out to you and talks about your most deep psychological behavior. You know.
Yes, it brings out the best, and sometimes, well, it doesn't bring out the worst in us, but it can show us what the worst of us is. You know, if we sort of look at it and think, oh, that might be what I'm doing, and I shouldn't be doing that, and then hopefully we learn from that, and then, you know, guides us to become better in our own life and things like that. And, you know, with Ramadan coming, it's another opportunity for that to happen, because, you know, Ramadan is the month of the Quran, and, you know, to be able to do more on that, you know, that area, to study it more and benefit from it more. And I assume that's why you're starting the campaign, the new campaign you're doing with these interviews, and that on the particular verses that affect them during the month starting in Ramadan. Very good time to have it.
Yes, it's worked out to be it's a good time to do it. I mean, we thought about doing something last Ramadan, but it was a bit chaotic because of the lockdown just starting, and everything was a bit kind of, we don't know what's going to happen. People weren't used to using these tools. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of reflecting on some verse of Quran and how an illustration, it has effects on you don't realize. So just thinking of one particular verse, part of Al-Fatiha, where it says, "Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in." And just that phrase, you may not know what these factors, but by saying it, na'budu means to serve. Okay, so it's you that we serve. Now, if you say we serve someone, then it's kind of, there's a subconscious thing that might say, well, maybe he needs us. You know, we're his servants. He's dependent on us. So immediately afterwards, and it is you that we are asking for help, not the other way around. He's not asking for our service. We are asking for his help. And so sometimes you don't realize these kind of connections until you kind of deeply reflect on it, and how people could misunderstand things, and how the Quran always kind of corrects misunderstandings by things in other places. So it's really, you know, it's very valuable for people to look and study the Quran in Ramadan, not just to recite it. Reciting is very good and commended and lots of rewards, but to actually take the time to think about things and to study the Quran and really get into understanding what is being talked about.
Well, contemplate and reflecting on it, and what's being said.
It's a lot. There's layers and layers, and there's like so much there you can find, and it takes time and it takes effort, but there's a reward for it. Inna ma'al usri yusra, with every difficulty there is ease. So you get the ease out of it by going into the difficulty.
Yep, that was actually one of our billboards. Talked about that. You know, especially I think that was in Christchurch, in one place we put it. So alhamdulillah, this is you know, great campaign again that you're doing, and inshallah it has great success, and I'm sure you're going to have a lot of good presenters and speakers telling where it's going to, you know, their favorite verse and how it affects them and what they get from it. So again, that's going to be on your YouTube channel or in your Facebook or on various how can people take part, get involved or watch it? Where can they view it?
Well, it'll be put on a Facebook page, and we'll add it. We'll add some more information on the website to say where everything is. But the videos will be on YouTube, and keep an eye on the website. I think that's the main place people can go. But the Facebook page is also important, and I think we're now on Twitter and on Instagram as well. And I think if you bring up that poster with Lauren Booth on it, it has all the links.
Different links, yeah. It's probably like ours now. We have 5 different things we go on. Facebook, I don't even know the symbols. Looks like Instagram, Twitter,
and the website.
And the website, yeah. So alhamdulillah. So everyone out there, you know, this is what you should part of your Ramadan things you do. It won't be for long. It's, you know, 15-20 minutes. You can just get in there and watch it whenever you like. I think you can you subscribe or I don't know how it all works. I'm not
I think if you follow on Instagram or Facebook, then you'll get a notification when a new video is posted, which hopefully we'll be doing regularly during Ramadan.
Yeah, inshallah. So you plan to do what, one a day, or is it?
Well, we'll see how many we can get. We've got enough to start, but we have to keep working through Ramadan to get the rest of them. Let's see how many we can get.
Inshallah.
It will be a few weeks. Maybe not one a day, but it will be a few weeks. Yes, inshallah.
Inshallah. You never know. You might get people lining up to want to come on board. You know.
We never know. We hope so, and we hope they all have some very useful contributions.
Yes.
If you want to contact us directly, you can email us at info@publicqurancampaign.org as well. So that's available as well if whoever needs to reach us.
And now, is there anything else you want to tell us about? I know we didn't talk about your personal background. I'm not sure what your background is. I don't know if we want to go into that, or
I can say, I mean, I've as 2 things, I suppose, that fill my life in terms of work and other things than this particular sort of dawah related work, and that is my career is in software development, and I build websites mostly in various ways for various people. So that's my professional the thing that brings in the money.
Sorry, can I interrupt? Yet you've got a website you talked about that hasn't anything done for 20 years. Is that what you said?
That's true, and partly the reason for that is because we got it all translated into other languages, and if we start changing stuff, we could probably take the whole thing and restyle it and make it a bit nicer. Anyway. But it's mostly text. There was a point at which it felt like, you know, adding more arguments which people bring up, which tend to be more and more spurious. you're actually de-emphasizing the important ones.
Yeah.
So I kind of, at a certain point, it kind of reached a level of maturity, and I kind of left it at that.
That's
but
that's what it is. Yeah.
But and it still stands up, things that haven't really changed. But yeah, that's the software side of things. There's another there's a software website I built, which is quite interesting, which you might like. It's just kind of a hobby thing, which is shariastandards.org, another one, which is kind of which has things like you can go anywhere in the world and plot a pin on a map, and it will tell you the prayer times, and it will tell you the Qibla, and you zoom into your house and work out the exact direction of the Qibla from your house, things like that, which are quite nice little tools. But also, I did a degree in physics many moons ago, and I've taken an interest back in that, in studying and trying to understand the basic problems of physics, and that's takes up quite a bit of my mental space as well.
As you can see, how many wives?
Right.
But no, which I can be jealous of, so it's all fine.
Alhamdulillah. So it keeps you very busy then, all these different projects, that's for sure.
Yes. My mind is fully occupied pretty much, and I try. It's hard to juggle sometimes with all these different things that I want to do but don't have time for.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd say about when I converted and that sort of history thing. My parents converted to Islam when just before I was conceived, technically. So my father died when I was quite young. I was 5, and my mother brought us up and didn't really push us into religion particularly. We were aware of all the religions, and we kind of, myself and my siblings both, we all came into Islam sort of later on in life properly. So I probably became Muslim only when I was 21, I think I would say. Yes, so there's a lot more could be said about that, but there's a whole big conversations that could be had on top of that. But that's
for another day.
Another day, maybe.
Inshallah, yeah.
There is a question here. My sister is asking if she saw us on the Muslim TV, the marriage program, and yes, we did. Actually, I forgot about that. We took part in a program also quite a few years ago. 10 years ago, probably, when we were interviewed together.
Yes, I remember the interview was in Didsbury Mosque, I think.
Yeah.
I remember that, yeah.
Our sister's got a very good memory.
Yes, she remembered.
So it must have made an impact. So I think we've now come to the end of the program, and I think if there's anything else you want to say, talk about that maybe we didn't cover, that you'd like to put out there to let the audience know, because we're after this, if whoever's watching is watching now, but we also boost it out to other areas. So it's whoever's watching now, we like all our other programs, we then boost it out to the various platforms and places like that. And if your own YouTube channel and Facebook, we can send it out through there as well. So if there's anything else you guys want to say, I would just
one thing I will pick up on a bit, and is to encourage also that the Signs on the Mosques project is still ongoing, and we would be quite happy to work with any mosques in New Zealand or whoever, Australia, wherever else your audience reaches, where this would be a useful thing to have. And I'm pretty sure they'll have similar rules there. I mean, it's a rule from when the churches put up those little signs saying, whatever, yes, they have their weekly message and whatever. And the mosques aren't yet taking advantage of this. And the good thing about these signs is they last. This one you're seeing on the screen now is at Palmer's Green Mosque, and it'll last 30 years, and it'll be there for everyone who walks past it or drives past it. And it's much better than the mosque being just a silent building in terms of how most people see it.
Yeah,
it's very simple to do. I mean, really, all we do is we discuss when first the mosque would like to put up, then they bring this back to the trustees or whoever is deciding. And so it's a very quick, easy process, and then it's just ordered, built, and put up by a company remotely. We don't even attend when this happens, because it's a very simple process, really. So
Well, part of,
anywhere in the world.
I was just going to say, part of my business, I do make signs. So, we've done banners for some of the mosques for the open days. We've done posters and pull-up banners and stuff like that. So, those sort of things aren't, new to me. It's just a matter of the idea of pushing that idea, ayah from the Quran and things like that to get that out there. That's something, we should probably look at here and maybe talk to you guys on, process and that sort of thing, and best way to do it.
Yeah, the main thing is that we'll work on it's important when you take a verse of Quran, make sure that the meaning isn't distorted by taking it out of context, and again, you have to work a bit on the translation to make sure that it's not archaic or something else. But so we always run it through a kind of people who are qualified, like as I said, my stepfather, Professor Abdul Halim, and make sure that it's the best choice of words we can possibly have for that limited space. And that's very important. And as I say, we do this. The way we've done this is we say we pay for everything. All you have to do is give consent. Tell us what verse you want and consent to the final wording and where you want it placed, and that's it. And as long we will want it to be somewhere that actually has its maximum impact. So it needs to be sort of public facing side of a building or a fence or something. But otherwise, that's something. So we try and encourage that, because that's a long-term thing that these things will really last, and it's a good use of money. But that's said, I don't know, with videos on YouTube and so on, that could go viral, could be much more effective. We don't know. We're still in the new world and all these things.
Well, it is,
Using all platforms available, one doesn't compete with the other. We can have everything, everything online and physical signs that are permanent on mosque wall. It all works.
Yeah. So there's just one other thing I would mention, is that this is our initiative to get the thing going, is to start the ball rolling in a way, in a good way. But I would perhaps put it out there as a kind of like you have the YouTube ice bucket challenges or something like that. It's just you yourself, anyone who's got a particular verse of the Quran that is meaningful to them, that they've been inspired by or whatever, make a little video and put it up, and send it to us, and we can share it. It doesn't have to be us interviewing lots of people. People are quite capable of making videos of themselves talking about the verse that is important to them and why. And if we like the video and we approve of what's being said in it, we can link to it and push it out there with all the others.
Yeah, which is good, because then it's got people from all over the world doing their own little version of it, and it's good, because then it has an effect, because people can see from all over the world, because we have people watching from all over the world, and they can all, it's a challenge to them now to actually do something like that, to, especially in Ramadan, to think about it. Hopefully have a little bit of extra time, we can think and contemplate, pick out the phrase or the verse that is most impacted on you, and make a little video. Maybe make two if you got more than one verse, and just send it out there. Send it off to info@publicqurancampaign.org, and and send a Voice of Islam as well. We're happy to push it out there as well. And put it out there and let people know about the beautiful message inside the Quran.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's always lovely to come on your channel and talk to you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming, and we wish you all the best for your project or future other campaigns, apart from the one coming up in Ramadan, all the future ones. Inshallah, we hope we can cooperate and work together in future campaigns and future interviews and things like that, inshallah.
Thank you very much.
Jazakallah, and thank
you and to everybody.
Yep. Thank you everyone else for watching, and we wish you all a happy Ramadan, and make the most of it, inshallah, and we hopefully all benefit greatly from it, inshallah. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.